Let's talk about skin tones. This is where things get interesting, and I will talk about Photoshop here in a minute. This D-Key Develop module, this is this guy, he's this fascinating, famous surfer, Rob Machado. And this photograph we're going to do a little bit, but what I wanted to highlight was a quick photography thing to think through what it is. And when I walked up to the scene, here's Rob talking to the surfboard face shaper, both famous guys. This is the best kind of light for me. It's a garage door, it's a warehouse, and all I had to have him do was stand in front of the surfboards just a little bit in the shade, lights bouncing off the concrete back into him. It's a beautiful, luminous light. And so that's how I get that kind of look. And then knowing that it's really even too, knowing I want to go black and white, I say V key for victory. Maybe Command 1, go back over there. And with that, I'm going to hit my black and white panels. And we've already seen this with my daughter, but I think it's really important to illustrate what our sliders do. They can ruin people's texture on their skin. This is an exaggeration. It's silly, which was good. You guys laughed. But you can also sort of get rid of freckles even. And let me see what my zoom rate is here. Well, let's kind of look at, kind of see the little teeny texture on his skin, how I can bring that, up and down. That zoom rate isn't good. So let me do it so you can see. Nope. Maybe right there. There we go. So what we can do is we can find those two. And these two sliders tend to travel together a little bit, meaning I can't really have a low orange. I'm going to go low orange, and then my red goes up, because that creates a strange pattern. And as does, if my red goes down a little bit too much, you can see, unless I want freckles. Freckles are amazing. I like them, especially on people who are out in the sun a lot and surf and all those things. But other situations, you maybe want to drop those. So point being, skin tones with these sliders to get them to glow. Because in black and white, what you want with skin often is that to have a brightness to it, to have this kind of, I don't know, this drawing people into that part of the image. We can do our other things here, and in this image, I'll go through my workflow. And at that point, I think I might want to try something else, reiterating the old shortcut, Command apostrophe on a Mac, Control apostrophe on Windows. And on this one, I say, well, what if I just deepen those blacks up? And what I really want to do is just kind of have something with even more variety. Command 3, I go and bring up my reds, and it's not even bright enough yet for me. I'll use a radial tool or some kind of selective adjustment. We'll talk more about this later, but the point being I did something else to it. / key gives me the before and after of those steps. Again, I'm just trying to give you that again so we remember it, right? All right, let's look at a couple other examples, 2 more. This is a good friend, Bruce, and I was photographing him in his office, and I was like, Bruce, do something crazy. And he always draws and creates, and so he chewed on a crayon. Isn't that great? So anyway, V for black and white. Again, a lot of times we start here. We're doing kind of that workflow with getting what we have here. And this image is one where I think it can really benefit. My monitor looks a little strange because it's projecting, but on my own machine, having that high clarity really helps a photograph like this. I'm paying attention to my color temperature to just see if that's affecting the image in a good way or bad. Command 3, I go into, I can control my skin tones and just thinking about those because they're primarily reds and oranges. All right, one more. This is Linda. She's the founder of lynda.com, a good friend as well. With something like this, what I'm trying to do is simplify the picture. I go V for the black and white. I want contrast. I want deep blacks. And again, you're kind of getting where I'm going with this, right? Isn't it funny? Now that you've seen this, you're like, okay, I'm getting a workflow. V key. Work through the basic panel. Double check a few things, make sure if you're swinging stuff hard, you might want to check out, make sure or double check for noise and different things like that. All right, skin tones and the power of the red and the orange sliders in black and white. If you remember nothing else, that. Skies, it's the blue slider, right? But that can really help out. Let's do another portrait. And in this image, I want to go through this one a little bit more and do some work on it. And also talk about working in Photoshop. So this is Patricia, good friend. She's an amazing printer and great photographer. So in this case, before I do all my black and white stuff, I'm kind of now getting into a more typical workflow, which is, if black and white's about contrast, then retouching becomes really important. It was our class yesterday, because little skin variations become more noticeable when you add more contrast. So what I need to do is get rid of those things. The shortcut for the spot healing tool. What is that one? Q. How can you remember that? I don't know. There's some quickly remove spots. Yeah, it looks like a Q. Yeah. And then we have the ability to click through and click on our problem areas. Sometimes we won't always identify or see those problem areas, so there's a great shortcut or great tool, which is the visualize spots. The way I remember that is A for awesome, because that can really reveal things or reveal issues you weren't aware of. And okay, so anyway, we know how all this works, but it's really important. So again, just getting into workflow, spending some time getting up close. The circles, which are our little overlay graphics here, showing us the areas that we've worked on, and also giving us the ability to go back to those areas, meaning we can click on this one and delete it or change it or whatever. With that, one more little thing, gotta get rid of that, is those overlay graphics are distracting. Someone's going to remember for me the shortcut to hide those, which is the, if you had to guess, the H key. So H key toggles those visibility of those on and off. And then if you have it on auto overlay, which I recommend, when your cursor goes away, that's a quick way to hide and show and hide those as well. All right, so this image, let's say I'm fired up about the color, which I think is kind of fun. And I like her expression, all that. I'm ready to hit to Photoshop. So to get to Photoshop, it's Command E on a Mac, Control E on Windows, or Photo Edit in Adobe Photoshop. This sends the image over to Photoshop, and what we want to do is continue to work on it there. Here in Photoshop, I'm going to press Shift F. Actually, yeah, right there. Shift F a couple times, just go to full screen mode so I have a little bit better view of this. And with this image, we have some options with our black and white conversions, and I want to talk about those. One is the black and white adjustment layer. And with the black and white adjustment layer, we have sliders, which we are already friends with. We know that there's skin in this image, so we're thinking reds, right? That's going to bring out texture, which I don't want. We want to take that away. We have yellows. There's a lot of yellow in the skin there. That's kind of getting into some of those deeper colors. So very similar workflow to what we have before. So we can bring out some of those brighten some of those tones. We can also go into blues. We have some blues in the shirt down here, which you can't really see, but I could customize kind of how that shirt, if I want that darker, which would actually work well, draw more attention to the face. In photographs, our eye goes to areas of sharpness and brightness and color. The color is gone, so it's about brightness and contrast and sharpness. Those things are where the eye is going. All right, so that's maybe step one. Step two might be to use curves. And when we click on the curves adjustment layer icon, it gives us a dialog where we can click and drag. And I imagine we all know this kind of stuff, but we can darken or brighten different parts of the image, and maybe we just want to throw a little contrast back into the image. So we have sort of our before and after with the workflow. So that's one option. When I'm working with layers, I like to group them. And to group a couple layers, click on one, hold down the Shift key, click on another, Command G for group. Command's a big shortcut. Do something big and bold. I command this to happen. Options like, hey, I want to do something different. And I think the Option key kind of has tattoos, and earring. And Command is like the, where I don't know. It's like, what is it?
CrossFit.
Yeah, it's like the CrossFit. Like, yeah. So anyway, or Control too, very controlling. So anyway, Command or Control G groups it up, and we'll just double click that to give it a name of black and white. All right, well, let's say that we wanted to just compare that to Camera Raw and say like, okay, yeah, that's one way. Let's do the Camera Raw inside of Photoshop. And with this image, I'll go to my background and duplicate that copy, and I'm going to drag it up top. Well, not drag it into the folder. Well, here's a nice shortcut that I like to use. Do you guys like when I throw out shortcuts, or is it confusing? Yes? Okay. Command's the big one, right? Command, like do something big. So if I press Command right bracket on Mac, Control left or right bracket on Windows, that's going to reorder a layer. So if I have a ton of layers and I press Command right bracket, I can go up and down, and kind of reorder those. Just a nice kind of geeky trick if you want to throw something on top by way of your keyboard. Okay, so there it is. Let's go ahead and name this one BW for black and white. we go to a filter, and we have two options with our filtering. We can just run a filter straight as is, or we can turn it to a smart filter. Smart filters, what are their advantage there? You guys probably know. Flexibility, you can always undo what you've done, right? Disadvantage of smart filters is file size, so it's saving a lot more information in there. And so I'm gonna, though, convert it for smart filters in case I don't like what's happening here. Layer will change. Graphic of the layer, we'll see, will have a little different icon associated with it. And Photoshop is trying, it's trying. There it is. And then I'm going to go to my filter and run Camera Raw as a smart filter. The reason why smart filters are great, if you aren't familiar with them, is if I decide to desaturate and, whoa, Camera Raw as a filter is crashing. So this I may need to change my demo here, but look at that. This is a new kind of Camera Raw. It's one where you have to work blindly. But anyway, I'm going to click OK. Let's just see if it runs. And the long story short is, with that on there, I have the ability to turn it on and off. Hopefully, obviously, it looks like something needs to be restarted. That solves all IT problems, right? Is restart. I'm not going to do that, but if it crashes, I will. But there we go. Great, thank you. I have found when you get mad at software, it gets mad back at you. So I find that being nice to it helps out. If I find that contrast I didn't like that, or I'd rather have gone to my sliders, we'll just pretend I went there. I'm going to cancel out of that. If I went there, I have flexibility with that. And what I was going to show with Camera Raw, which I won't, is that what I might have been able to do is the adjustment brush as well. So sometimes, you can do that, versus with my adjustment layers, I didn't have the adjustment brush in there. I didn't have noise reduction to deal with the stuff in my sky. So accessing what we learned in Camera Raw here can really help us out, right?